And our big story tonight is, of course, the big Alibaba IPO scheduled for this Friday, the 19th, here in New York at the New York Stock Exchange, and the overwhelming demand that the roadshow is generating. The e-commerce giant's management are now in the second week of the roadshow, presenting to investors. Jack Ma and the team are in Hong Kong, and Kathy Yang has been following this closely. Kathy, the demand has been so high that Alibaba has now increased its price range. What's the latest on pricing?
That's right. Well, Alibaba has just raised the amount that it's seeking in its IPO. Regulatory filing shows the company is now offering the shares for $66 to $68 apiece. Now, that brings its potential fundraising to $21.8 billion, moving a step closer to breaking a global record, Michelle. Alibaba came from a price range of $60 to $66 each, but because of sheer demand from investors, the firm had some wiggle room to bump up the price range. Now, not even the typhoon here, Michelle, could ruin Alibaba's roadshow. We've had a strong wind signal over the past 24 hours, and we're now at number 8. But that did not keep Jack Ma from showing up at the closed-door investors meeting. The frenzy just before the start of the closed-door meeting of Alibaba's IPO roadshow in Hong Kong. Investors arriving in droves for the meeting at the swanky Ritz-Carlton Hotel. Security was tight as they cordoned off the biggest ballroom in the house, one floor below. We got past security for a moment and saw this just outside the ballroom. A huge Alibaba poster greeting investors with the message, "Make it easy to do business anywhere." It's an Alibaba homecoming in Hong Kong, as some might put it, and they held it here, the tallest building in the city. Alibaba once eyed Hong Kong as the venue to list its multi-billion-dollar IPO, but spurned by stringent listing rules, Alibaba headed to New York instead, a move many considered a big loss for Hong Kong. Today, Alibaba finds itself knocking in Hong Kong stores again, this time to sell its IPO. The frenzy upstairs reached fever pitch as media handlers asked everybody to be prepared. And then he shows up, Jack Ma himself, founder of Alibaba Group.
People say that Hong Kong lost the Alibaba deal. But to me, I think Alibaba missed this great opportunity to be listed in Hong Kong. And I believe Hong Kong is changing. And we love, in the past 15 years, we love Hong Kong. I will continue to love Hong Kong and invest in Hong Kong.
Ronald Wan is Chief China Advisor of Asian Capital Holdings.
I heard that the lead managers, the underwriters, actually going to increase the share price. They are likely to increase that size, something like at least 6%. Some people say that even they're going to raise it to something like 29 times. So the share price will be over $70 per share.
Owing to the huge demand, investors wanting another way in can do so through alternative instruments, says Carrie Zhang of Deutsche Börse.
For the issuer in Germany, they would like to issue some call and put on the first day. And some may even consider to issue CBBC, which is the bull and bear certificate.
Thank you very much. Alibaba is expected to set the price and sell stock to select investors on September 18th, with trading to begin the next day. It's going to be tough getting a piece of the action from where we are outside the U.S., Michelle, because not more than 10% of Alibaba's IPO is allocated to investors globally. So if you're in Hong Kong, you'd have to be investing at least $1 million to ensure you get your share of Alibaba's IPO offering. Michelle?
And Kathy, the demand has been so overwhelming. I'm sure there are plenty of people willing to fork over that $1 million. Well, you know, Kathy, Hong Kong actually turned down Alibaba's listing application a couple of years ago due to an issue with the voting rights of minority shareholders. Jack Ma responded to that today during the roadshow. What exactly did he say regarding Hong Kong?
That's right. You know, Mr. Ma was in a pensive mood when he answered that question, but he didn't mince his words, Michelle. He said he understands and supports that Hong Kong should not change its listing principles for one company or enterprise, but that Hong Kong has to change for itself, for the younger generation, for the future, because the world is changing. He spoke both in Mandarin and in English during the short exchange, but he did say in English that Alibaba is not a company from China, that it is an internet company that happens to be in China. He wants Alibaba to be a global company, so after listing in New York, he's planning to expand in Europe and the US, and that he will not give up on Alibaba's Asian market. And on that note, Michelle, we're just about 3 days away from the listing in New York. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Kathy Yang, live in Hong Kong.